Hello, welcome back. In this video, we're gonna combine everything that we just learned to show you why JavaScript is useful. Because I know some of you are thinking, okay, we learned a whole bunch of new ways of writing JavaScript and we learned about arrays and objects, but I don't really know how that relates to me building websites or web apps. Well, I'm gonna show you that we can build a simplified version of Facebook with what we just learned. So let's get started. We're gonna have a database with usernames and passwords. We're gonna have a newsfeed and we're gonna have users. So let's start off by thinking about how Facebook works. With Facebook, we have a sign up form usually. We need to sign in. And once we sign in, if it's correct, it goes to our profile where we can view our newsfeed. So let's build that. We can start off with having something called a database. So we'll have a variable database. And in this database, we can have multiple users, right? So what do we need here? We need an array, a list of users. So now I can say, I have a username, and this might look familiar from our previous lessons. We'll have a username of Andre and a password of super secret. For now, we're just going to leave it at one user. We have a database and we also want to have a newsfeed, right? So let's have a variable called newsfeed. And in here, a newsfeed, well, again, it's a list, an array of news. So we can have a username Bobby that on his timeline has maybe so tired from all that learning. We also have, we have more than one item usually in a newsfeed. We can say that username Sally on her timeline just posted, JavaScript is so cool. Okay, so we have a newsfeed, which has an array of objects. And we have a database, which is an array of just a single object right now, a username and password. Now, how can we build a sign-in form? Well, we would want to perform an action to check a user's credentials, their username and password. Well, we've done this before, right? We've used prompt before. Accepts a user's input. So we can do variable username prompt. We'll say equals prompt. What's your username? Okay. We also have, I'm going to make this smaller just so everything fits in here. Hopefully you can still see. We have variable password prompt that equals prompt. What's your password? Question mark. Okay. So we have this working. When we open up this file and refresh, HTML is going to get loaded line by line. And we see, oh, we have a script. Let me load the script. And then the browser reads line by line. We have a database. We have a newsfeed. And then it's going to say username prompt equals prompt. And it's going to ask us for what's your username. And then it's going to ask us for what's your password. Well, let's just test that. I'm going to save and refresh. And there you go. What's your username? Andre. And what's your password? Super secret. That's very nice, but when I sign in, I either want to know that my password is incorrect, or if I log in and everything is correct, I want to get my newsfeed, right? So it sounds like we need to perform an action, but we don't really have a sign in function in JavaScript, do we? It's a custom function that we need to build ourselves. So let's think about this. We want to create a function called sign in. And to sign in, what do we need? Well, we need a username and password. And we can name these whatever we want. And just to prove that to you, I'm just going to do user and password. We'll do pass like that. Okay, and if we remember to create a function, this is function declaration. I have my curly brackets, and in here, I can do something. So again, let's think about this logically. In order to sign in, I need to check username and password. Well, if the function gets the first argument user, well, I can say that if username, well, in this case user, equals, well, what does it equal? We need to check against our database, right? Our database, when Andre signed up for Facebook, he put his username down and password down. So we have that information. So we can say that when you sign in, we're going to check user to see that the user matches database, and it's an array. So we're going to grab the first element in the array, and we're going to grab the username property. Okay. And we also want to check the password, right? So what do we do when we have to check two things? Well, it's a conditional that has end. So here I can say password should equal database, first item in the array, and this time instead of username, it's password. I'm going to put this on a new line just so you can see it. There you go. So sign in function is going to say if user equals whatever we have in the database, username, and password equals whatever we have in the database. If that is right, well, we can say console.log, and we'll say newsfeed. Else, if the password or username is not correct, we'll just say alert, sorry, wrong username and password. So we have our function, but this disappeared somewhere. And we'll save this, and let's just refresh. Okay, what is your username? We'll say Andre. And what is your password? Well, we'll say super secret. I press enter. Okay, and now nothing happens because, well, we haven't called the function, right? We just know that the sign in exists. Let's just check that sign in exists. Sign in is not defined. Oh, it's because I spelled it. I spelled it wrong. Let's do sign in again, and let's refresh. Andre, super secret. And if I look for sign in now, yep, there's the function. So let's run it. Let's do sign in, and we'll say username prompt, password prompt. Look at that. We just received our newsfeed. That's very cool. Let's put this inside though. So the script just runs and we'll get our answer right away. So we'll do username prompt and password prompt. Now, just to show you what I did here, I am calling the function signin that accepts two parameters, user and password. So when I call the function, I'm going to give it two arguments to match those parameters. I'm going to give it the username prompt, which contains whatever we've written in the first prompt, and then password prompt, which contains whatever we've written in the second prompt. So now if I save this and refresh, I can say, what's your username? Andre. Password, super secret. And look at that. Now I'm logged in and I can view that Bobby is so tired from all that learning, and Sally, well, Sally finds JavaScript really, really cool. Let's also try out the else statement in case we mess up our information. I press refresh and I'll do Andre. And for password, I'll just do 123. I'll get, sorry, wrong username and password. There you go. We've built a basic Facebook. And that's what's so amazing about JavaScript, is that you look at websites like Facebook that seem really, really complicated, but they're all made of these small chunks. And the functionality that you see on Facebook is exactly that. We are signing in and they're checking the sign-in information against a database. And then based on if we're right or wrong, we either get the newsfeed or we get, please sign in again. And that's the power of JavaScript right here. And this is why I'm so excited to teach you this topic, because it opens up a whole new possibility of pretty much doing anything online now. I have another exciting video for you coming up next. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.